When I picked up the phone to ask my son David when his wedding would be, my daughter-in-law Sophie looked me straight in the eye and said with a cold little smile, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited special people." Those words hit me like ice water. Special people. I who had paid their rent every month for 3 years, bought every piece of furniture in their house, and filled their kitchen whenever they ran out of food wasn't a special person. I just stood there in my own living room, holding the phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. David couldn't even look at me, and Sophie sat comfortably on the sofa I had bought for them. The pale pink dress I had picked out for her wedding still hung in my closet, along with the new shoes I bought, both useless now. I had spent $200 on that dress, imagining how nice I'd look in David's wedding photos. Photos I would never appear in. For weeks, I had planned everything. I even saved up to give them $1,000 as a wedding gift. I called my sister Helen in Chicago to tell her the good news. I cleaned my house from top to bottom, thinking they might stop by after the ceremony to celebrate. But all that hope vanished the moment Sophie said those 4 cruel words, "Only special people." David finally looked up and said, in a voice that sounded practiced, "Mom, it was a small, intimate ceremony, just the 2 of us and the witnesses." But I knew he was lying. I saw the pictures on social media. I saw Sophie's parents proudly standing next to them. I saw her siblings toasting with champagne. I saw her white wedding dress, the same one I helped pay for with the $800 I gave her last month. I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see. A week later, exactly 7 days after that humiliation, Sophie called me again. But this time, her voice was different. Gone was the proud, confident tone. Now she sounded nervous, almost begging. "Margaret, the rent is due. The landlord says if we don't pay this week, he'll kick us out. You forgot to send the transfer." Her voice was shaking like the world was ending. I stayed silent for a few seconds, remembering all the times I had rushed to the bank to make that transfer, canceled my own plans just to make sure they had a roof over their heads, and eaten beans and rice so I could help them. And now, after cutting me out of their wedding, she was calling me like nothing had happened. "Sophie," I said calmly, surprising even myself, "didn't I tell you I only help special people?" The silence that followed was so heavy, I could hear my own heartbeat. For the first time in years, it wasn't me trembling, it was her. "Margaret, I don't understand," she stammered. "We've always been special to you. You're like a second mom to me." Lies. All lies wrapped in that sweet voice she used only when she wanted something. The same voice she used when asking for money for her wedding dress, for the honeymoon, for the rings I helped pay for, rings I never saw exchanged. For years, I'd felt like I was walking on eggshells, watching every word, every gesture, every gift just to earn a little affection from my own son. I was the perfect mother, the helpful mother-in-law, the quiet provider who never complained, even when they treated me like I was invisible. But those words, "only special people," woke up something inside me that had been asleep for too long. I started thinking about how much I had spent on them in those 3 years. Rent, food, gifts, emergencies, all their little needs. More than $20,000. $20,000 taken from my retirement, my savings, the money my late husband left for me to live out my years in peace. And for what? To be treated like a stranger at my own son's wedding? That night after I hung up, I sat on my bed and cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger, of frustration built up over years of silent humiliation. I cried for all the times they made me feel like my love was a burden, like my presence didn't matter, like money was the only thing I had to offer. I cried for the foolish mother I had been, for the woman who lost herself trying to be important to people who saw her as disposable. When I woke up the next morning, something in me had changed. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was something harder, colder. I looked at myself in the mirror, same tired eyes, same wrinkles from years of giving love and getting nothing back. But this time, there was something different in my gaze, a strength I hadn't seen before. I went to the kitchen and made coffee, just like I'd done for 40 years. But this morning, I didn't think about calling David to ask how he'd slept. I didn't check my phone, waiting for an apology that would never come. For the first time in a long time, I put myself first. I sat at the table where I'd spent so many hours planning surprises for them, counting money for their bills, and crying quietly when they ignored me. But now, that same table was about to witness something different. I pulled out my checkbook and bank statements and started adding up every penny. I wanted to see just how much of my life I'd wasted. $500 rent every month for 36 months, $18,000. Food and groceries about $200 a month. That's $7,200. Gifts, birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, at least $3,000. Sophie's medical bills, $800. The car loan they never repaid, $2,500. Air conditioner repair, $600. Living room furniture, $1,200. A total of $33,400. That was the price of my so-called generosity. $33,400 of my husband's inheritance, my pension, my savings, all thrown away to keep two grown adults comfortable, who couldn't even show me respect. Then the phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen. Normally, I'd have rushed to answer, hoping for an apology or an explanation. But this time, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then silence. I took another sip of my coffee. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Sophie this time. I ignored it. Then a text from David. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. I deleted it without replying. By 2 p.m., I decided to go for a walk, for the first time in months, not because they needed something, but just because I wanted to. I passed the park where I used to take David as a little boy. I remembered that sweet child who hugged me tight and said I was the best mom in the world. When did that boy turn into a man who treated me like an ATM with feelings? When did I start believing that love meant paying for everything? When did I start thinking I had to buy my own son's affection? When I reached the bank, I stopped in front of the door. The manager, Mr. Harris, saw me through the glass and waved. He'd known me for years, handled every single transfer I made to David and Sophie. He had seen my account slowly drain month after month just to keep theirs full. I walked into his office. Mr. Harris, I said, I want to cancel all the automatic transfers I've been making. He looked surprised. For 3 years, those payments had been as regular as sunrise. Are you sure, Mrs. Collins? Did something happen? His concern felt more real than any care my son had shown me in months. What happened, I said, is that I finally opened my eyes. Cancel everything. And please tell me how to protect my accounts. I don't want anyone else touching my money. While he handled the paperwork, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. David, then Sophie, then David again. It was as if they could sense their money flow drying up. I turned my phone off completely. Mr. Harris handed me the papers and said softly, Mrs. Collins, I'm sorry if I'm overstepping, but I've seen you be very generous with your family over the years. I hope you're not being pressured to make these changes, Mr. Harris said softly. His words really touched me. This man, who only knew me through bank transactions, showed more real concern for me than my own son ever did. I'm not being pressured, Mr. Harris, I replied. Actually, I've just stopped pressuring myself. When I walked out of the bank, I felt strangely light, like I had just dropped a heavy load I'd been carrying for years. For the first time in so long, my money was truly mine. No more financial duties to people who only saw me as a walking wallet. I started thinking about everything I'd given up for David and Sophie, the vacations I never took just to save for them, the friends I stopped seeing because they always had emergencies, the hobbies I quit because I thought spending on myself was selfish. When I got home, 3 cars were parked outside David's, Sophie's, and one I didn't recognize. I could see shadows moving inside my house. My heart sank. They had keys. Keys I gave them out of trust, thinking they'd someday care for me the way I cared for them. I took a deep breath. It was time for the first real confrontation of my new life. When I opened the door, I froze. I'll never forget what I saw. David was sitting on my sofa with his head in his hands. Sophie was pacing back and forth like a trapped animal. And an older man I'd never seen before was going through my papers on the dining table, my personal documents. What's going on here? I asked, my voice louder than I expected. All 3 looked up at me like I was the intruder in my own house. Sophie spoke first, her voice full of fake panic. Margaret, thank God you're here. We need to talk. This is Mr. Collinsworth, the lawyer we consulted about your situation. My situation? I said calmly. What situation? I'm perfectly fine. David finally looked up at me. Those once kind, boyish eyes now only showed panic about money. Mom, we went to the bank. They said you canceled all the transfers. Mr. Harris also said you blocked our access to your accounts. We don't understand why. Mr. Collinsworth, a man in his 50s with a fake polite smile, walked toward me and held out his hand. Mrs. Collins, I'm Dr. Collinsworth, a family lawyer. Your children are worried about your mental state and asked me to assess things. I ignored his hand and went straight to the table, grabbing all my documents from under his nose. These are my private papers, I said. You have no right to go through them without my permission. Mom, David cut in, using that patronizing tone he'd mastered over the years. We're just worried about you. You've been acting strangely. First, you cut us off financially without explaining. Then you stopped answering our calls. Maybe you need some help. Sophie came closer, trying to hold my hand, her voice dripping with fake concern. Margaret, dear, we know you're under a lot of stress. Maybe the loneliness is getting to you. At your age, little episodes of confusion are normal. Confusion. The word hit me like an alarm bell. Now I saw what they were really after. This wasn't about concern, it was about declaring me mentally unfit, so they could take over my finances. The same woman who told me I wasn't special enough for her wedding was now calling me confused. I am not confused, I said firmly. In fact, I see things clearer than ever. And you're all leaving my house right now. Mrs. Collins, Mr. Collinsworth said in that rehearsed calm lawyer voice. I understand this is overwhelming, but your children have a right to step in if they believe your ability to handle money is impaired. They've noticed several worrying behaviors. Worrying behaviors? I let out a rough, bitter laugh. Like what? Choosing to keep my own money? Deciding to stop paying for two grown adults who treat me like garbage? Sophie jumped, her voice rising. We never treated you badly. Your family. Everything you have will belong to us one day anyway, we're just speeding it up. There it was, the truth, finally out. In their minds, I was already dead, and they were just collecting their inheritance early. Out, I said, pointing at the door. All of you out of my house. Mom, we can't just leave, David snapped, his face red. We have bills. The rent, the car, the credit card you co-signed. You can't just cut us off overnight. I can't. I raised my voice for the first time. Who says I can't? For years I paid rent on a house that wasn't mine. I filled a fridge in a home where I wasn't welcome. I paid for a life that had no room for me. Mr. Collinsworth calmly placed a folder on my table. Mrs. Collins, we've prepared some documents to help. A temporary power of attorney so David and Sophie can manage your finances until you're feeling better. I took the folder, didn't even open it, and threw it straight into the trash. The only transition happening here is yours to the front door. Sophie started crying, not from sadness, but from frustration and anger. You can't do this to us, Margaret. We were counting on you. We made plans. Plans based on my money, I said coldly. Not my happiness. Not my health. Just my money. And now that I'm using it for myself, suddenly I'm a confused old woman who needs guardianship. David tried to come closer, but I stepped back. He wasn't my little boy anymore, just a grown man angry that his free ride was over. Mom, we made mistakes, he said, trying to sound sorry. The wedding was just a misunderstanding. Sophie was nervous. I was stressed. We can fix this if you just be reasonable again. Reasonable? I repeated bitterly. Being reasonable means paying your bills while you ignore me. It means pretending it didn't break me to be left out of your wedding. Mr. Collinsworth packed up his papers briskly. Mrs. Collins, this isn't over. Your family has legal options. If a judge finds your decisions irrational, they can assign guardianship. His words stung. This wasn't just emotional blackmail anymore, it was a real legal threat. Mr. Collinsworth, I said, looking him dead in the eye, you might want to research before you threaten a 71-year-old woman who's managed her own finances for 40 years, raised a son alone after her husband's death, and supported two capable adults until last week. Sophie stopped crying, her voice turning sharp and cold. This isn't over, Margaret. We have lawyers too. Perfect, I said calmly. Hire all the lawyers you want with your own money. Mine's off limits. They walked out slowly, trying to look dignified, but I could see their anger. At the door, David turned and said, Mom, this'll end badly for you. You'll end up alone, with no one to care for you. David, I said quietly but firmly, I'm already alone. The difference is now it's by choice, not because you neglected me. I closed the door behind them and stood still. The silence that followed was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in years. It was the sound of freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep not from sadness, but from the rush of finally taking control of my life. I lay awake, planning my next steps like a soldier before battle. If David and Sophie wanted a fight, they'd get one, but this time, I'd use my brain, not my heart. By 6 a.m, I was dressed and ready. My first stop was at attorney Mr. Grant's office, the man who'd helped me handle my late husband's will. Unlike Mr. Collinsworth, he had an excellent reputation and specialized in protecting the elderly. After I explained everything, he nodded. Mrs. Collins, what your children tried to do is sadly common. It's called elder financial abuse, and it's a federal crime. The fact that they entered your home and went through your private papers without permission also counts as a violation. His words calmed me and scared me. They calmed me because they proved I wasn't losing my mind. What happened to me was real, and it was wrong. Mr. Grant worried me, and that's when I knew the situation was worse than I thought. We have to document everything, he said. Every transfer, every gift, every time they pressured you for money. We'll also change your will so your assets can't be messed with later. We spent 3 hours going over my bank records. Mr. Grant whistled when he saw the total. $33,400 in 3 years. Mrs. Collins, he said, with that money you could have lived comfortably, traveled, and enjoyed your retirement. Instead, you've supported 2 adults who didn't even respect you enough to invite you to their wedding. When I left his office, I had a plan. First, I'd change all the locks on my house. Second, I'd install a security system with cameras so surprise visits wouldn't happen again. Third, I'd open a new bank account at a different bank someplace they couldn't reach. Fourth, I'd start living the life I'd been postponing. My next stop was the hardware store. Mr. Dawson, the owner, knew me well. I'd bought so many things there for David and Sophie's apartment over the years. This time was different. Mrs. Collins, what brings you in today? Another emergency with your son? He asked, like he always did. No, Mr. Dawson, I said. This time it's for my house. I need to change all the locks. I want the best ones. He looked surprised but didn't pry. While I picked locks, his son Bethan, who installs security systems, walked in. It felt like fate. Bethan, I told him, I also need a full camera system installed. Price is not an issue. They scheduled the install for the next day. While they made the plans, my phone rang from an unknown number. It was Sophie calling from someone else's phone. She knew I'd blocked her number after the argument. Margaret, it's Sophie. Please don't hang up. We need to talk like civilized adults. Speak, I said dryly. Listen, I know you're upset about the wedding. It was a mistake. David and I have talked. We want to make it up to you. How about a special dinner to celebrate at your house, cooking together like we used to? Her offer was so obvious and fake I almost laughed. Sophie, how much rent do you owe exactly? I asked. Silence. I'd hit a nerve. Then she stammered. Well, 2 months, $1,000 total. But I'm not only calling about that, Margaret. We really miss you. Do you miss me or my money? I asked bluntly. Both, she said, shockingly honest for once. Margaret, I won't lie. Yes, we need money, but we love you too. You're important to us. If I'm so important, I said, why wasn't I important enough to be at your wedding? Why don't you ever call just to ask how I am? When was the last time you called just to see how I'm doing? Silence again. We both knew the answer. Never. Sophie, I'll tell you once. For 3 years you treated me like an ATM with feelings. You used me. You ignored me. You humiliated me. And then you insulted me in the worst way. Now that the money is drying up, you suddenly say you love me. Margaret, please, she began. There is no please. I cut her off. You made your choice when you decided I wasn't special enough for your wedding. Now I'm making mine." I hung up and turned off the phone. I didn't want any distractions on my day of freedom. That afternoon I went to the beauty salon the first time in over a year. I'd always canceled appointments because David or Sophie needed something, or my spare money became their emergency. Mrs. Collins, Tina, my favorite hairdresser, called. "What a surprise. I thought you'd forget us." "I didn't forget you, Tina. I just forgot I deserved to be pampered too." I got the whole treatment: cut, color, manicure, pedicure. For the first time in years I spent money on myself and didn't feel guilty. While she worked, Tina talked about her life, her kids, her dreams. It felt so good to have a conversation that wasn't about David and Sophie. "You look beautiful, Mrs. Collins," she said when she finished. "But more than that, you look free. Did something good happen?" "Yes, Tina. I finally learned to say no." When I came home that afternoon, a car I didn't recognize was outside. My heart raced, thinking David and Sophie had come back with reinforcements. But on the porch sat an older woman. "Mrs. Collins?" she asked as I stepped out of the car. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" "I'm Grace Mitchell. I live next door. We've been neighbors for years but never really talked. Yesterday I heard loud voices and got worried. Is everything okay?" Her concern touched me. A stranger showed more care than my own son. "Come in, Mrs. Mitchell. I'll make coffee and tell you a story you won't believe." While I made coffee, I told her everything. Grace listened without interrupting, nodding. When I finished, her eyes filled with tears. "Mrs. Collins," she said, "you did the right thing. I went through the same thing with my daughter 5 years ago. I thought if I didn't give her money, she wouldn't love me. I cut her off when I realized they only called when they needed something. At first it was terrible," she continued. "They threatened me, emotionally blackmailed me, tried to guilt me. But after 6 months my daughter called and genuinely apologized. Now we have a real relationship based on love, not money." Her story gave me hope and confirmed I'd done the right thing. "Do you think David and Sophie will understand one day?" I asked. "Maybe," she said honestly. "Maybe not. But that's not your responsibility anymore. Your responsibility now is to live your life." That night, for the first time in 3 years, I went to bed without worrying about whether David and Sophie had rent or food. I slept thinking about myself, my plans, and my future, and slept better than I had in years. The next morning at 8, Bethan and Mr. Dawson came to change the locks and install the cameras. While they worked, my phone kept ringing. Unknown numbers. Sophie tried calling from different phones, but I'd learned to ignore calls that didn't suit me. "Mrs. Collins," Bethan said as he set up the cameras, "this system will give you total peace of mind. You can see from your phone who's at your house, and if someone breaks in, the police get an alert automatically." The irony wasn't lost on me. Installing cameras to protect myself from my own son. It hurt, but less than before. It was practical, and it kept my peace. While they worked, I called my sister Helen in Chicago. We'd grown distant. Every phone call had become a report about how much money I'd given David and Sophie. I realized our conversations had turned into financial updates instead of sister talk. "Margaret." Helen answered, surprised. "Sister, how are you? We haven't talked in months." "I'm good, Helen. Better than good." I finally came to my senses, I said, then told her everything: the secret wedding, the humiliation, the lawyer's visit, and my decision to stop the money. Helen listened, then surprised me. "Margaret, it's about time. Every time we talked it broke my heart to hear you brag about how much you gave them, like love could be measured in dollars. I wanted to tell you something, but I didn't know how." "What?" I asked. "That David never talked about you with love at family gatherings," she said. "It was always, my mom bought this or my mom paid for that, but never I miss my mom or I love my mom. You sounded like a service provider, not a person." Her words hurt, but they were needed like a doctor cleaning a bad wound. It stung, but it was part of healing. "You know what else?" Helen continued. "Sophie always talks about you in the future tense. When Margaret is gone, we'll remodel the house, or when we inherit, we'll invest. It's like they're waiting for you to die to really live." That hit me like a bucket of ice water. They didn't just see me as an ATM, they saw me as an obstacle between them and their plans. While I worked to make them happy, they were already planning a life without me. After I hung up with Helen, I sat at my kitchen table thinking about years of marriage to a loving man, 35 years raising my son alone after my husband died, and 3 years supporting 2 adults who saw me as a $100,000 hurdle. The doorbell rang. On the new camera feed I saw Grace holding a mug. I opened the door and she handed me a fresh coffee. "I thought you might need company after what you told me yesterday," she said with that warm smile I'd come to trust. We sat in the living room and Grace shared more from her experience. "My daughter said the exact same things Sophie says to you. You're like a second mom. We're special to you. Everything will be ours one day." "Those are rehearsed lines," she said. "Do you think there's a handbook for emotional manipulation?" I asked, half joking. "Not officially," she said, "but it might as well exist. Chapter 1. Make her feel indispensable. Chapter 2. Create constant financial emergencies. Chapter 3. When she resists, question her mental health." We laughed a bitter, helpless laugh. It was both funny and tragic to see the pattern laid out so clearly. "Did you ever feel guilty for cutting them off?" I asked Grace. "Every single day for the first 3 months," she answered honestly. "But then I started to see the results. My daughter had to take a second job. Her husband stopped playing golf every weekend and began looking for extra work. They learned to live within their means, and more important, they began to see me as a person, not just a resource. That afternoon I decided to do something I'd put off for years: visit my husband's grave. I always made excuses not to go because David or Sophie needed something, or because the taxi fare could be used for one of their emergencies. The cemetery was quiet and peaceful. Thomas's grave looked a little messy. I hadn't cleaned it in months. I sat on the grass beside his headstone and talked to him like he was right there. "Thomas, my love, I think I lost myself for a while. After you left, I focused all my energy on David. I wanted to be the best mother, thinking he'd grow up without a father. But I think I forgot to be me." The wind blew gently and for a moment, I felt like he was listening. "Our son has become someone I don't recognize, or maybe he was always like this and I just didn't want to see it. His wife is, well, you know how she is. The money you left for me to live peacefully, I spent it taking care of them. But not anymore, my love. I've learned." I cleaned his grave, replaced the dead flowers, and stayed another hour just enjoying the calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing home to fix a crisis for David and Sophie. When I came back, 3 cars were parked outside again. My heart raced, but this time I was ready. The cameras showed it was David, Sophie, and 2 people I didn't recognize. They looked agitated, talking and pointing at my house. I stayed in the car and called Mr. Grant, my lawyer. "Mr. Grant, they're at my house again. They brought more people. What should I do?" "Don't get out of the car, Mrs. Collins. I'll be right there, and I'll call the police." After yesterday, I filed for a temporary restraining order. They are not allowed on your property. Minutes later, Mr. Grant arrived with 2 police patrol cars. I watched officers talk to David and Sophie. David gestured angrily, Sophie cried again, but this time her tears didn't move me. One officer came to my car. "Ma'am, you can get out safely. Your visitors will leave immediately." As I stepped out, David shouted from the street, "Mom, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't call the police on your own son." "Family doesn't threaten lawsuits over mental competence," I answered calmly, surprising myself. "Family doesn't break into homes without permission. Family doesn't treat mothers like ATMs." Sophie screamed back, "You're going to pay us everything you owe. We have bills you co-signed for. You can't abandon us like this." Mr. Grant cut in. "Mrs. Mitchell, any contact must go through my office. And I suggest you consult an attorney before making collection threats. My client has full documentation of all payments she voluntarily made for 3 years." I watched them drive off, defeated but not giving up. I knew this wasn't finished, but for the first time I felt confident. I had legal help, emotional support from Grace, and a clear head about right and wrong. That night Grace invited me to dinner. I met her daughter and saw a healthy family in action, people who spoke respectfully asked about each other's lives, and laughed without asking for money. Her daughter never asked for money the whole evening. I want that with David, I told Grace after her daughter left. Maybe you'll get it one day, she said. But first he has to learn you're a person who deserves respect, not just income. For the first time in weeks, I went to bed feeling hopeful. The next few days were oddly peaceful. The cameras showed David and Sophie driving by my house several times a day, sometimes slowly, sometimes parking for a few minutes, but not getting out. It seemed like they were studying my routine, looking for a moment to act. Mr. Grant told me to document every visit, so I kept a log with dates and times. Their persistence will help us, he said. Every time they come after we told them not to, it strengthens our case for a permanent restraining order. On Friday morning I was calmly having breakfast when the doorbell rang. The camera showed a well-dressed young woman with a folder and a professional smile. I didn't recognize her. When I opened the door she said, "Good morning, Mrs. Margaret Collins. I'm a social investigator from the Office of Senior Services. We received a report that you may be at risk, and we need to do a wellness check." My blood ran cold. David and Sophie had escalated things. It wasn't just private lawyers, now they'd involved a government office. "Can I see your ID?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She showed an ID that looked real. "I'm social worker Mrs. Turner. May I come in and speak with you?" I let her in because refusing would have made me look worse. Mrs. Turner sat down, opened a form, and read, "We've received reports you've changed your financial behavior, cut off communication with family, shown signs of paranoia installing security systems, and refused medical and legal help from loved ones." Every phrase was chosen to make me sound like a confused old woman. I could almost see Sophie's handwriting in the way it was put together. "Mrs. Turner," I said with all the dignity I had, "I'd like to call my lawyer before answering any questions." "This is not a legal interrogation," she said. "It's a wellness check. If you have nothing to hide, it should be fine to talk." The line, "if you have nothing to hide," made me furious. It's the same logic abusers use to justify invading privacy. "Miss, I'm calling my lawyer. You can wait here or come back another day, but I won't answer without legal representation." I called Mr. Grant, and he arrived in 20 minutes. His face changed when he saw the social worker. "Miss Turner," he said after checking her ID, "I hope you have a court order. My client is under my representation, and any unauthorized investigation is harassment." "Sir," Mrs. Turner replied, less confident now, "we have reports from concerned family members about the woman's well-being. It's our duty to investigate." "What family?" Mr. Grant asked dryly. "The family that tried to get her to sign a power of attorney without a lawyer? The family that broke into her home and looked through her private papers? The family that excluded her from important events while living off her money?" Mr. Grant set a folder on the table. "Here's complete documentation of financial and emotional abuse, $33,400 withdrawn from her accounts in 3 years. Systematic exclusion and emotional blackmail. If anyone needs investigating, it's not my client." Mrs. Turner read the papers with growing discomfort. She could see the reports she'd gotten didn't match the real situation in front of her. Finally she said, "Mrs. Collins, can you explain why you abruptly stopped supporting your son financially?" "Because I finally realized they were using me," I said simply. "Because I understood that to them I wasn't a mother, I was a bank account. Because I was tired of paying for the lives of people who saw me as a burden." "But don't you think it's your responsibility to help your family?" Mrs. Turner asked. The question annoyed me deeply. "Mrs. Turner, my job as a mother was to raise my son until he turned 18, to teach him, guide him, and help him grow into an independent adult. My son is 35 now, married, and fully capable of taking care of himself. Supporting him financially isn't my duty anymore. It's my choice and I've chosen not to do it." Mr. Grant jumped in. "Mrs. Turner, would you say it's normal for a 35-year-old man to be unable to pay rent without help from his 71-year-old mother?" Mrs. Turner didn't answer right away. I could see her starting to rethink the whole situation. "Mrs. Collins," she said after a moment, "do you handle your own finances?" "Yes," I replied. "I can show you my bank statements, my investments, my tax payments, everything is up to date and in order." Do you live independently? As you can see, I keep my home clean. I take care of myself. I drive my own car. I have good relationships with my neighbors. Do you take any medication? Just vitamins and sometimes aspirin. I don't have any medical issues that need treatment. Mr. Grant added, my client just completed a full medical exam as part of our legal process. She's in perfect physical and mental health. Mrs. Turner closed her folder and sighed. Mrs. Collins, based on our conversation and the documents I've reviewed, I see no sign that you're at risk or in need of intervention. I'll close this case. After she left, Mr. Grant and I sat in silence for a few minutes. Margaret, he said finally, this is going to keep escalating. David and Sophie are spending money they don't have, trying to hire people to prove you're incompetent. So they're desperate? I asked. Exactly. Their next move could be filing a lawsuit for mental incompetence. It's expensive and hard to win, but if they find a judge who feels sorry for them and a psychiatrist willing to support them, they might get a guardian assigned over you. The thought terrified me. They could take control of my money? They can try. But we have strong evidence that you're completely capable and that their actions come from greed, not concern. That afternoon, I called my sister Helen to vent. Do you see how far they're willing to go for money? She said. They're risking family ties, wasting money on lawyers and doctors, and ruining their own reputation just to get back into your bank account. Her words hit hard. David and Sophie had shown me who they truly were. There was no going back, no real reconciliation. To them, I had never been a mother or a respected mother-in-law. I was just money on two legs. The realization was painful, but also freeing. I didn't have to question my choices anymore. I didn't have to feel guilty for protecting myself. They had proved that my well-being meant nothing to them compared to my money. That evening, Grace showed up with a surprise. She had brought some friends from her garden club to meet me. Margaret, she said, these are my friends Tina, you've met her at the salon, and this is Linda, Janet, and Agnes. We've all dealt with difficult family situations. We spent the evening sharing stories. Linda had to draw the line with her brother, who constantly asked for money. Janet had cut off her daughter, who only visited when she needed something. And Agnes had rewritten her will after realizing her grandchildren saw her as their retirement plan. What hurts me most, I confessed, isn't losing the money, it's realizing I never really had the love I thought I did. Agnes, with her calm 80-year-old wisdom, said, Margaret, real love can't be bought or sold. If you had to pay for it, it was never love. Her words healed something inside me. She was right. I hadn't been loved, I had been funding an illusion. You know what I've learned? I said. Being lonely while surrounded by people who don't love you is worse than being alone by yourself. At least now, when I'm alone, I'm in good company. Everyone laughed, and we raised our glasses to our new understanding. That night, after they left, I sat in my garden and looked up at the stars. They seemed brighter, or maybe I was just seeing them more clearly. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely on my own financially. No one depended on me anymore. No one to drain my savings. And instead of fear, I felt excitement. I could travel whenever I wanted. I could remodel my home. I could buy nice clothes. I could give to charities I cared about. I could finally invest in myself, not in ungrateful people. Freedom tasted like hope. And for the first time in years, I was ready to dream about my future again. A month after the social worker's visit, I thought the war was finally over. I had settled into a peaceful routine. I'd eat breakfast calmly, read the newspaper, tend my garden, have lunch with Grace or one of my new friends, and spend my afternoons doing things I'd long abandoned. I even started painting again, something I loved before I became David and Sophie's personal ATM. But one Thursday morning, as I painted flowers on my new easel, Mr. Grant arrived with a serious look that froze my blood. Margaret, he said, we need to talk. David and Sophie have filed a formal lawsuit for mental incompetence in family court. They're asking for a legal guardian to be assigned to you. The words hit me like stones. I knew it could happen, but hearing it out loud made it terrifyingly real. So they can take over my money? If a judge decides you're unfit to manage your finances, yes, David could be appointed as your guardian and gain full control of your accounts. I sank onto the sofa, feeling the weight of the biggest betrayal of my life. My own son was trying to legally declare me insane just to steal from me. Mr. Grant, what proof could they possibly have? You've seen I'm perfectly fine. They've submitted statements from 3 witnesses claiming you've been acting strangely. They also attached unpaid medical bills and records of medications you supposedly hoarded without taking. But that's a lie. I don't have any unpaid bills or stored medications. I know, said Mr. Grant. But they've created convincing fake evidence. They even have a statement from Dr. Phillips saying you refused a psychiatric evaluation, and they're using that as proof of mental decline. The manipulation was pure evil. They had twisted my self-protection into evidence of mental illness. Who are the 3 witnesses? I asked. Mr. Grant flipped through his file. Sophie, of course. A neighbor named Mr. Peterson. And someone claiming to be your pharmacist, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Peterson lived across the street, a grumpy man who always complained when my friends parked near his house. Mr. Bennett was really my pharmacist, but I had no idea why he'd say such things. I need to talk to Mr. Bennett, I said. Something doesn't add up. That afternoon, we went to the pharmacy together. Mr. Bennett looked surprised and nervous when he saw me. Mrs. Collins, it's nice to see you. How are you, Mr. Bennett? I said. I heard you signed a statement saying I behave erratically with my medications. His face turned bright red. Oh, Mrs. Collins, your daughter-in-law came by a few weeks ago asking about your prescriptions. She said she was worried because you were acting strange. And what did you tell her? I asked. I told her you only buy vitamins and aspirin, and that you don't have any serious prescriptions. But she said that was proof you weren't taking proper care of yourself. Mr. Grant stepped in. Mr. Bennett, did you sign any document? She brought a paper for me to sign. It said I was confirming that Mrs. Collins had irregular medication purchases. I thought it was for her insurance or something. I had no idea it was for a lawsuit. My pharmacist had been tricked into signing something he didn't even understand. Sophie's manipulation had no limits. Mr. Bennett, I said calmly, I need you to write a new statement explaining exactly what happened and that I have no issues with my medications. Of course, Mrs. Collins, he said quickly. I'm so sorry for the misunderstanding. After leaving the pharmacy, we went straight to confront Mr. Peterson. He opened the door with a scowl. What do you want? He snapped. Mr. Grant spoke first. Mr. Peterson, I understand you signed a statement about my client's behavior. That's right, he said. That woman is crazy. She's been acting weird for weeks. Can you explain what you mean by weird? Mr. Grant asked. She installed cameras all over her house like she's living in a war zone, has random people visiting all the time, and she yells at her family in the street. I realized then, he had taken everything completely out of context. The cameras weren't paranoia. They were protection. The strangers he mentioned were actually my new friends. The yelling he heard was me standing up for myself, protecting my home from David and Sophie's constant intrusions. Mr. Peterson, I said calmly, do you even know why I installed those cameras? No, and I don't care, he snapped. It was to protect myself from my own son and daughter-in-law, who broke into my home without permission and even threatened me. He gave a cruel laugh. That's exactly what a crazy person would say. There was no reasoning with him. His words were based on lies and twisted assumptions. That evening, Mr. Grant and I sat down to plan how to defend my case. Margaret, he said seriously, we'll need our own psychiatric evaluation. I know a trusted colleague, Dr. Caroline. She's an expert at assessing mental capacity. She'll confirm officially that you're perfectly fine. I sighed. What if David and Sophie already bribed the judge? What if it doesn't matter how competent I am, they'll just declare me insane anyway? Margaret, he said gently, the system isn't perfect, but it's not totally corrupt either. We have strong proof that you're mentally sound, and that they're doing this out of greed. We'll fight this and win. The next day, I went to see Dr. Caroline. She was in her 50s, kind but very observant. Mrs. Collins, she said, I'll ask you some questions and give you a few simple tests to check your mental capacity. Take your time and answer honestly. For the next 2 hours, she asked about my memory, reasoning, finances, Emotions everything. She gave me puzzles, math problems, and logic tests. At the end, she smiled warmly. Mrs. Collins, your results are way above average for your age. You're not only mentally fit, you're sharp and strong. Doctor, I asked, why would my own family do this to me? She sighed. From what you've told me, this sounds like a typical case of elder financial abuse. Sadly, it happens more often than people realize. I left her office feeling both relieved and heartbroken. It was comforting to know I was okay, but it also hurt to realize this whole legal battle was necessary because of my own family. Later that afternoon, Grace gathered our garden club friends for an emergency meeting. When I told them about the lawsuit, everyone was furious. Margaret, said Linda, will testify for you. We've spent weeks with you, you're doing great. Better than great, added Tina. You're clearer and stronger than most 40-year-olds I know. Agnes, our wise 80-year-old, took my hand softly. My dear, what your children are doing isn't new. For generations, greedy children have tried to call their parents insane just to take their money. But you're lucky you have documentation, legal support, and real friends who can stand by you. Her words gave me strength. I realized I wasn't fighting alone. I had a whole circle of strong women behind me. You know what hurts the most? I said quietly, that David and Sophie are willing to destroy every chance of peace or reconciliation for money. Even if I wanted to forgive them, after this, there's no going back. Maybe that's a good thing, Tina replied gently. At least now you know exactly who they are, and you can protect yourself accordingly. That night, I finally let myself cry. Not because I was sad, but because I was saying goodbye. Goodbye to the son I thought I had. Goodbye to the dream of a loving family. Goodbye to the illusion that love had ever been unconditional. But from those tears came something else, strength. A fierce determination that I would not let anyone take away my dignity, my freedom, or my peace. The battle had officially begun, and I was ready. 3 weeks later came the trial. I woke up early, dressed in my best black suit, and looked at myself in the mirror with a confidence I'd never felt before. Today wasn't just about proving I was mentally fit, it was about defending my dignity, my independence, and my worth as a human being. Mr. Grant arrived by 7 a.m. to review our plan one last time. Margaret, remember the burden of proof is on them. They have to prove you're incompetent. All we need to do is show the truth. And if the judge is already biased? I asked nervously. Judge Anderson is known to be fair, he assured me. He protects the elderly. You'll be fine. At 9 a.m., we arrived at the courthouse. In the hallway, I saw David in a new suit probably bought for the occasion, and Sophie dressed in black like she was attending a funeral. Maybe she was. The funeral of our family bond. When David saw me, he looked away. Sophie, on the other hand, met my eyes with a cold, businesslike stare. Their lawyer, an older man with calm confidence, looked like someone who had won many similar cases before. When he gave his opening speech, his plan was obvious: to paint me as a confused old woman being manipulated by outsiders. Your Honor, he began solemnly, Mrs. Margaret Collins has clearly shown mental decline. She's cut off her family financially without reason, installed unnecessary security systems out of paranoia, and isolated herself from loved ones under the influence of neighbors and lawyers taking advantage of her. Every word twisted the truth, turning my independence into madness and my freedom into manipulation. Then came their witnesses. Sophie was first. She cried as she described how I'd changed, how I'd become paranoid and hostile. Your Honor, she sniffled. Margaret has always been like a second mother to me. Seeing her lose her mind has been devastating. We just want to help her get the care she needs. Her fake tears almost deserved an award. But when Mr. Grant cross-examined her, the lies started to fall apart. Mrs. Schuster, he said, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? Sophie hesitated. Well, we talked about other things too. Can you give me one specific date? I don't remember exactly. Is it true you and your husband got married without inviting my client? It was a very small ceremony. And when she asked about it, you told her you only invited special people? Sophie's face turned red. That was taken out of context. And what's the right context to tell your mother-in-law she's not special? She had no answer. Then David took the stand. Watching him swear to tell the truth before lying about my mental health broke my heart. This was the boy I'd raised alone, the one I gave everything for. My mom has always been generous, he said, but lately she's been acting strange and irrational. We think people are manipulating her. Mr. Grant didn't waste time. Mr. Collins, how much money have you received from your mother in the past 3 years? I don't know the exact number. Does $33,400 sound right? Maybe. She's always helped us. And how many times have you visited her without asking for money? David went silent. Is it true that you and your wife broke into her home without permission and looked through her private documents? We were worried about her. Is it true you brought a lawyer to pressure her into signing over financial control? We just wanted to help manage her finances. Tell me, Mr. Collins, at 35 years old, do you really need your 71-year-old mother to pay your rent? He had no answer. Mr. Peterson testified next, repeating his story about me acting crazy. But under cross-examination, he admitted he'd never even spoken to me directly. Everything he said was based on assumptions. Then Dr. Phillips took the stand, saying my refusal to take a mental test was proof of mental decline. But Mr. Grant presented Dr. Caroline's evaluation results, which completely destroyed that argument. Finally, it was our turn. Mr. Bennett, my pharmacist, explained how he had been tricked into signing false papers. Dr. Caroline spoke about my excellent mental health and shared my perfect test results. Mr. Dawson from the hardware store testified that I'd handled all my recent transactions rationally. And Grace, along with my garden club friends, told the court how much life, clarity, and joy I'd regained. Finally, it was my turn to speak. I stood up with my head high and walked to the witness stand, feeling all 71 years of my life, the lessons, the pain, and the strength I'd found. Mr. Grant guided me through my testimony and let me tell the whole story. The $33,400 spent in 3 years, being left out of the wedding, the constant emotional pressure, the invasion of my privacy, and the legal threats. Mrs. Collins, Mr. Grant asked at the end, why did you stop supporting your son and daughter-in-law? Because I finally saw that what I was getting from them wasn't love. I answered loud and clear. It was a business deal pretending to be family. They wanted my money, not me. Do you regret your choice? He asked. I only regret I waited so long to do it, I said. David's lawyer tried to make me look confused during cross-exam, but I answered each question clearly and precisely. When he hinted that my new friends had pushed me into this, I told him that for the first time in years my relationships were based on respect, not money. In his closing, David's lawyer kept saying I'd been manipulated. Mr. Grant's reply crushed that claim. Your Honor, he said, this is not an incompetent old woman. This is a woman who found the courage to stop years of emotional and financial abuse. The plaintiffs showed no real medical proof of incompetence. What they showed was anger because their money source decided to protect herself. Judge Anderson went to think for 2 hours, a wait that felt like 2 years. When he returned, his face was serious but steady. After reviewing the evidence, he began, this court finds Mrs. Margaret Collins fully capable. Psychiatric tests confirm her competence. Her financial choices, however painful for the family, are rational and within her rights. My heart raced. Furthermore, the judge added, the evidence suggests this lawsuit is driven by money, not genuine concern. The request for guardianship is denied. I had won. I hadn't just won the case, I had won my freedom, my dignity, and the right to live without abuse from people who pretended to love me. Leaving the courthouse, I saw David and Sophie arguing with their lawyer. Sophie shot me a look full of hatred before she left. David glanced at me once, maybe with regret, but it was too late. That night Grace threw a little celebration at my house with all our friends. We toasted justice, freedom, and the strong sisterhood that had stood by me. Renata, Agnes said, today you didn't just win a trial, you won your life back. She was right. For the first time in years, the future felt entirely mine. I could travel. I could love. I could create. I could live without fear, guilt, or being used. 3 months later I sold my house and moved to a lovely apartment near the city center. I gave half my money to charities that protect the elderly from family abuse. With the other half, I finally lived the life I had put off. I traveled around Europe, took art classes, and joined volunteer groups. I never heard from David and Sophie again. I heard later that they moved to a smaller flat, and that Sophie had found a job for the first time in years. Maybe they learned to work for themselves, maybe they didn't. Some nights, I stand on my new balcony and look at the stars. I think about the woman I was a year ago, scared, used, convinced I had to buy love. That woman is gone. In her place is someone who learned the simple truth. Real love doesn't have a price, and freedom is worth everything. My name is Margaret. I am 72 years old. And I finally learned that the most important person I must love and protect is myself. If you liked my story, you can support me with a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. And you, what would you do in my place? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment. Also tell me where you heard this story. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many more stories waiting for you. With heartfelt greetings until next time.